We putting work, turning nothing into something. They feelings hurt, we turning nothing into something. Give a fuck if they don't like me, cause all this bread I count excites me. Turning nothing to something, nothing into something. Turning nothing into something.
What up? What's going on, everybody? What is going on? Welcome to Blunt Thoughts Live, episode 73, a 2026 season preview of Blunt Thoughts Live. And we are lucky once again for the third year in a row. I don't know how this happened. I mean, I know how it started. I don't know how he keeps coming back, but he does. And we appreciate it very much because we look forward to it every time we speak to him. And we look forward to these season previews because sometimes he puts me in my place. But we do have our guy, Anthony McCaron, joining us tonight. Let's bring him up. Let's not waste too much time. Say hello to him. How's it going, Anthony? Thanks again, man, for joining us on the season preview. It is the third annual. I don't know if you realized it. I don't know if you're keeping count, but I am. And thank you, man, because I really appreciate it.
It's always a good time, Hector. I'm glad to be on with you again, and it should be a fascinating Mets season. Whatever happens, we don't know, but boy, is it going to be interesting.
We don't know, but we sure we're going to try to talk like we're going to know what's going to happen. At least I am. I know you're the more responsible guy. I get a little crazy. Real quick, before we get started with the Mets fun stuff, you know I like to watch SNY and BNNY and Sports Night and all that good stuff, and you and my buddy Sal and all and on there and everybody that comes through, JJ and everybody. But this week you guys had somebody come through that I actually met once at Evan Roberts baseball league. He came by and played for one of the teams once. Shlomo, I forget his name.
Shlomo Levenger.
Shlomo Levenger, right. And I was blown away watching this. I was blown away when he was on the field. You were in the studio with him. Just real quick, how was that experience? And again, for people that don't know, well, Anthony will tell you.
Well, I mean, it was amazing. He does these mental tricks, and where he'll ask you to think about something, and I'll tell you about the one he did with me, which to me was the one that really shattered my brain. Before the show, he asked me to think about a player, any major leaguer ever, past or present, that I would like to interview, not to tell him. And then he was going to ask me about it on the show. So I got somebody in my brain, and we went out there, and then he said, okay, think about your guy. And I did. And he wrote a name down on it. He did a few little things like, let me look in your eyes, think real hard. Think if he's a pitcher, think of him pitching. If he's a position player, think of him in the field or at bat. And, he was looking at me and all this stuff. And he wrote down a name, and he said, okay, when I count to three, you say the name, and I'm going to turn the piece of paper around, and we'll see if it's the same. And the guy that I thought of was Dizzy Dean, who was just a phenomenal madcap oddball character and 30-game winner, Hall of Fame pitcher, et cetera, et cetera. He turns the piece of paper around, Dizzy Dean. Don't ask me how he did it. And it was like, my wife said she was watching the show. She's like, this is freaking me out. And so he did a few more other tricks too. And you can see him on the internet. He's done a lot of things with big league teams. He actually told us he had been to Alex Bregman's house recently for a gig. And I know I watched one of him with the Dodgers in spring training a couple years ago. And I think he did another thing with the Dodgers as well. It's amazing stuff. You should have seen Sal bouncing around, going nuts when he would do his thing with Sal and be right, of course. It was amazing. It was amazing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he opened it with Sal with the trick with the cards, and I forget what the card that Sal had, but he had it written on three cards. He had facing up, and it was exactly
clubs.
Right. I trust me. I'm not your wife, but I was blown away too. The same way as I was watching. And again, he had come out to Evan Roberts fan baseball league, Twitter baseball league. I had a couple of names as it grew. And he blew us away that day, and I was blown away watching. I was like, I got to ask Anthony about that because
it was quite something.
Right, and then with Jim Duquette and Francisco Alvarez on the hat.
Yes, with Jim Duquette, right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and he was wearing.
I mean, none of that had the right. Yes.
And Jim had picked a card from a stack of cards with Met players, past and present, written on it. And so he had done that previously, and and Shlomo had the correct guy inside his yarmulke.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
it was crazy stuff. Very fascinating. I don't know how he does it. Trying to think of a way he did it, and but I think you'll drive yourself crazy if you try to think it.
Right. I mean, the only thing I could think is maybe he like goes through your online profile, anything that he could find, and maybe there's something there where you talked about Dizzy Dean.
I mean,
like, that's the only thing that I could think of. But man, that's a lot of work.
I said to somebody in the newsroom, it's not like I come in here every day talking about Dizzy Dean and wearing a Dizzy Dean T-shirt or anything. I mean, it was really remarkable.
No, it is. It is. Well, let's get to the fun stuff, Anthony. And we spoke during the off season. Shout out to everybody, man. Hello to everybody. And don't come by yourself, like we say, man. Don't come here. This is not a solo party. You must bring a guest. So if you're here, we appreciate you, but make sure you don't share it and let somebody else know to come on in and have some fun. We spoke sometime during the off season. I forget, and we talked about the prospects of the Peter Alonso and all of that stuff coming back. I'm not even sure if the Nimmo trade had already happened, but real quick, we don't want to spend too much time on that because we're trying to move forward here. Your thoughts basically on the off season, and people don't like it when I say it, but what is now the rebuilt Mets, the new Mets here, as we've seen some. Listen, you could depends on who you speak to. Some guys that were loved by the fans, some guys that maybe some fans felt they had to go. Maybe not all of them, but here we are. Your thoughts quickly on just overall the offseason and what David Stearns has done here.
Well, I mean,
focused on run prevention.
Yeah, right. Run prevention is king, and that's why the only guy to me, other than I liked Edwin Diaz. I think they should have re-signed him. I think they should have done what was necessary to get him to come back. But the one that hurt, for me, because I like his game, is Pete Alonso. I know he's not a good defensive first baseman. Fine, I get it. But there aren't many guys like genuine real power hitters like him in the game. And that's going to be interesting to see how they replace, whatever it was last year, 126 RBI, all those home runs, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact that he was a homegrown Met, I enjoyed that. Already the franchise home run leader. I like that kind of history stuff. So I would have been real happy if he'd have come back because I just find his career so interesting. And it would have been great to see if he could get to 500 homers in a Met uniform. Maybe that's crazy. I don't know. But he wasn't playing the position the way David Stearns certainly wanted. And, so I get it. I think the Met land was really angry at first at all this. And now I feel like the stuff that I see online from fans is they're more excited about the team, the new look Mets, and what they're, possibly going to be able to accomplish going forward here, that some of those old wounds have already closed and there's more optimism about the team going forward here, which I think is interesting and, maybe well-founded and maybe nuts. We're going to find out.
Right. And I always say only time will tell. We can talk back and forth and people can try to convince each other whether this is good or bad, whether we're going to be better or not. At the end of the day, some people say, I miss Pete. And I say, well, really, can we really say we miss Pete? I think for now, yeah, we are a little upset that he's gone, but maybe the team plays in a way where you'll never think about Pete Alonso. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it all depends.
No one's going to care about Pete.
Exactly. Now, when we do, and we both mentioned it briefly, the run prevention, and that was the theme of the offseason, and that's why we're making these moves. And, you see the Brandon Nimmo trade, and you can understand that. And I'm a big Nimmo fan, and even more as I watch spring training. I got to be honest with you, Anthony. As it first unfolded, I'm like, wait a minute. I understand Carson Bench, but A.J. Ewing is the guy. How about we give him a chance, right? And the point is, I could see why David Stearns maybe told Brandon Nimmo the things that he said to him when they had their conversations as to whether he wanted to waive the no trade or not. We have these young guys, and we're excited about them. And sooner or later, we're going to have to give them a shot. So I can understand that. And I understand that we've got better up the middle with Luis Robert and Marcus Semien. But when we talked about run prevention, and you said it, listen, Pete had his flaws. Yeah. Maybe his throwing to a runner wasn't good. Even throwing to base is not the best. Throwing
it was a great scooper, though.
Great scooper, which people dismiss. And I thought he handled himself well around the base for the most part. You know what I'm saying? He knew what balls to go, and I'm not gonna hold that against Polanco yet. But what I have a little bit of issue with is it's not like you went and got yourself a defense first baseman and addressed the offense elsewhere. You went with a total project at first base, and you don't even have a backup first baseman that you can say, okay, if this doesn't work out, at least we could throw this guy out there, and he's at least gonna handle the position competently. You don't even. Maybe we could say Brett Beatty because he's looked good. Shout out to Brett Beatty. We'll get into him a little bit as we go along here. Maybe. Sure as I don't think it's Mark Vientos, and we'll talk about him as we go along, but does he even have a place on the team? Some people will say, right? So that's my only issue with it. That you talked about run prevention. It's made seem like you really don't like Pete because of his defense, and then you went and you got somebody that never played the position in his life.
Right. And I know all the stuff about him coming down on the so-called defensive spectrum because he spent his career as an infielder at the harder infield positions, and so he should be able to learn the nuances of first base. I get it. I see that. But you could see how inexperienced he is at the position if you watched yesterday's spring training game on Saturday when he made that incredibly ill-advised underhand. He did a great job getting to this ball, hit way to his right, and then he underhanded this, airmailed this underhand throw to first. It was not great. And, so the optics of that don't look good, kind of on the eve of the season and all that sort of stuff. And look, I mean, to be honest with you, Hector, I feel like the stuff that's been coming out of Met camp in terms of Polanco, how much first base is he going to play? How much versus how much DH is he going to play? Well, he was the first baseman when it first happened.
Right.
And now all of a sudden they got to find ways to get him DH at bats. Well, what does that mean? Why is he first baseman?
I said that early. I said that a few weeks ago where I started to get the impression from Mendoza that he wasn't too confident. He talked about the knee, and then he has to get comfortable there. And I'm like, okay. Right.
So look, I mean, we'll see how that works itself out. But I mean, there's pressure on him to be good defensively when he plays first base there now, and that in turn puts pressure on on this whole new Mets plan where run prevention is king. And I get it, and people. Even after Moneyball, people have looked at first base as not this, incredibly vital defensive position. And maybe it's not as important as shortstop. Okay, I get it. But, when you have a really good fielding first baseman, man, that saves a lot of headaches when you got guys in the infield who can really go get balls and they're throwing off balance, but that guy can stop those throws from being a two-base error. Instead, and just keep the guy at first if it's a bad throw, whatever. They can make the play there. It's important. We'll see if this guy can do it, or however first base comes together going forward here. I mean, he better hit. Let's put it that way. Polanco better hit. I think he will. He's a good hitter, but he better hit.
Yes, and you alluded to something that I think about it as well. Is you not only have a new first baseman, but you also have someone switching from shortstop over to third base in Bo Bichette, whom the last thing he needs is when he makes maybe a little throw that's offline like he did early in spring, not to make a big deal out of it, but like he did early in spring. And was it a terrible throw? No. Does a better first baseman maybe make a better swipe tag on the runner than that Joan Rojas did? Possibly. But that's the point. Now we have Pete might have been able to help Bichette in his transition to third base. See, but some people feel like Polanco and Beatty would be way better than Pete Alonso defensively. Okay, we'll see. We know where you stand. We know how you felt about Pete Alonso. But you also have a guy in Francisco Lindor who's had now multiple arm cleanups, minor surgeries, whatever the heck it is, who we've seen the arm on a little bit of a decline, whom Pete Alonso has whom we've seen Pete Alonso help. And again, you have an inexperienced first baseman. So all of these things to me just kind of like worry me a little bit, but I'm trying to keep an open mind. Let me ask you this, Anthony, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it's something that I've been thinking about, and I don't even know how to do the research on this or if it's even possible. But do you, off the top of your head, can you think of any middle infielders that made the switch to first base and like it was a great success that we could look back and say, oh yeah, this guy... Because I can't think of that. I think it's more maybe a corner outfielder will move to first base. A guy from third base will go to first base. Maybe even a catcher.
Like Vlad Guerrero comes to mind. I mean, he was obviously a third baseman to start with, but that's that comes to mind.
And the reason why I ask, Anthony, is because when people talk about middle infielders, they can move anywhere. They're athletic. They're this and that, and somebody
hands. They got hands.
Right, they have hands. But I see middle infielders they usually go to third, or maybe they even go to the outfield. That's the kind of transition I see. Or more than likely, they just retire and they're out of the game. It's more than I just can't think of many middle infielders that actually move to first base.
Rise is another guy who did it. I actually thought he looked pretty good recently, in the World Baseball Classic too. I thought he looked pretty lively as a fielder, and I know he's got a bad rep as a fielder. But he was a second
and underappreciated as a hitter. I like Luis.
Yeah, terrific. One of the New York teams should have signed him. That's another story. But
yes. Well, shout out to my guy Junior who brings up Rod Carew.
That's Rod Carew. Very good. Excellent point.
That's a great one.
He was a second baseman by trade and became a very good first baseman. He's the perfect example.
There you go. So let's hope that Polanco goes along that route then. Staying with the whole and off season and what David Stearns has done, just because I hear people bring it up sometimes. And do you by any stretch feel like David Stearns is on any kind of a hot seat, or that this team needs to win? Or
well, I mean, they do need to be good. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think that if they're not good, I don't think he's in trouble.
I agree with that.
I think that they have. It was clear what happened this past winter that the Met Brain Trust has committed to him and him doing it his way, and that's what they've gone for. And you know what? That's fine. He's had good success in his career, and he's in a position now where he can do both things, which is find the guy that you may not, realize is going to be really good for you, and also, be creative and that sort of thing, and also use the power of the financial might that the Mets do have to do things as well. And I'm interested to see what he can do with the combination. But it's clear to me, Hector, that the Mets have committed to his vision and his vision, rules going forward.
Absolutely, and I think it's only right, and it's how it should be. It doesn't mean that we're going to agree with everything that he does, right? You reserve the right to disagree, to be critical or whatever, and then to be wrong in your criticism as well. Because sometimes we may not agree, and it may turn out that he's right. He made the right move. And we'll see if all these moves that he made this year turn out to be the right moves.
Or even if some of them do. I mean, I can't imagine he hits on every single one of them.
Right.
Although I will say this, he's going to hit on Freddie Peralta because that was good stuff.
Absolutely. And it was a move that I expected as the offseason went on, as we came into the offseason. I thought it would happen, Anthony. We were looking for David Stearns to come out of his comfort zone, to whether it be in a contract in length, if that's where his comfort zone is, where he doesn't like to give long-term contracts, money, whatever. I don't think money is really the object. It's more about the length of the contracts, right?
It is the term, the contract.
Right, the term. Or that's a better way to say it, term. Or in spending assets and trades.
Right.
And I felt like Freddie Peralta would be that guy that he would feel comfortable that the assets that he was spending would be worth it. And even if these guys in Brandon Sproat and Jet Williams, who I really like Jet Williams, turn out to be, really good players, he felt comfortable in what he's going to get from Freddie Peralta. Now, in my opinion, you gotta sign this guy to an extension, Anthony.
Yeah, I mean I think that's certainly the aim, and we'll see what happens. I mean, there's no, the idea that he's not signed to one already doesn't really mean anything. Let the guy figure out if he likes being here. He looks like a happy kind of person, and if he pitches well here and the Mets win, that will help things, help him. His idea of staying here, certainly, and the Mets, motivation to keep him. But I don't think there's anything wrong with the fact that he isn't already signed. It would be best if he were signed. But if you're Freddie Peralta, and you're going to go out on the market that Tarek Skubal is going to set next winter, who knows if you want to sign an extension.
Yeah, although I think from listening to him, I think he's figured out that he wants to be here. He talks about his family, how much family he has here, and being Mets fans. And
I mean, that's all true. But of course, what else is he going to say? He's starting a new marriage here. He's not going to say, "Look around." You know what I mean? So,
right.
that all may be true, but it's ultimately just saying it's ultimately an element of it is saying the right thing.
I get it. Absolutely. I just feel like if there's any side that's more willing to wait, it's more the David Stearns and the Mets side. What I don't agree with, and again, our buddy Sal, shout out to our buddy Sal. What I don't agree with is Sal's mentality that we don't have to sign an extension. Why would you if you're the Mets? Steve Cohen could throw money at him, and like, can we stop with that already? Like, why do we have to do it that way? If you can get, and especially, so what? Who are we above getting a discount if that's what it works out to be? You know what I'm saying? So I could understand him, if anything, saying, no, I want to go out there and show that, like you said, that I'm going to be the next guy under Scooble. You know what I'm saying? And if you can't get close to what we feel like that may be, whatever the hell that number is, I don't know. If you can't get close to that now, then I'm going to test free agency. Then I'm okay with him saying that. But as a team, if I can get a guy that I feel like can help me for now and the future for a few years, and even if I got to do an extra year, then I'm going to do it. If I have the interest of bringing them back, why do I need to wait till later and pay more? Makes no sense.
And here's the thing: when it comes to free agency, that the Mets are the only ones who can negotiate with him right now. When he's a free agent, all bets are off. You don't control anything. The Mets having had him the previous season doesn't mean a thing anymore, because now everyone could pay him. And if you're a smart baseball team that wants to win and Freddie Peralta's healthy, you probably want to do business with him in some way. And you have no idea what appeal some team might have for him, where he's like, you know what, I want to be there. And so you can't even let him think about it. That's the reason why you would sign him to an extension. It's because you can't even let him be romanced by these other places. And once your control is gone, you can't tell what's going to happen. So if you do want him back, then you do make the effort. But I think it's okay if they wait and see here or whatever. I know we haven't heard much about any substantive talks or anything like that, but letting him get to free agency and then just paying him because Steve Cohen doesn't sound to me like a sustainable strategy of any kind.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like something that David Stearns wants to do either. But this is a guy that wants to be responsible, and it's just
look at it this way too. What if after he gets to free agency, Freddie Peralta said, "I thought the Mets wanted me back. They never made an offer. The entire time I was the only guy who, the only team that I could negotiate with. They didn't, show me the proper respect." Whatever. I'm not saying he would do that, but these are the things that crop up in these instances.
Anthony, we saw the perfect example of it in Edwin Diaz.
Yeah.
Edwin Diaz is someone that everybody expected I thought, okay, this is going to be as smooth as last time. We should have an extension before the offseason even really kicks off. He wants to be here. The Mets want him here. He doesn't seem like a guy and it's not like he went for much money, much of a difference, right?
They could have covered that and more.
But he just felt like a little bit of love, and that's why I think it's a dangerous thing you play with sometimes also.
Right.
A dangerous game was even I didn't like in the offseason when David Stearns said, I don't need to meet with Pete Alonso. He already knows how we feel. Nonsense. I don't need to meet with no nonsense. Sometimes these guys, as silly as it sounds, want to be wine and dined even. Hey, it's like a marriage.
Right. Well, and don't forget,
you still want to feel the love.
Right. And don't forget this part too. Like professional athletes, a lot of them have, they are incredibly self-confident people with large egos. And you probably need that to get to this place in your profession, to be so single-minded and driven, to do all the work that you need to. People don't arrive in the major leagues just because they happen to be good at baseball. There's a tremendous amount of work that these people put in, and good on them for doing it. But you're right. They may want to be wanted, and they may want those signs of being wanted. Some of them, not everybody.
Yeah.
But you have to look. If you got
to figure it out. Which ones do and which ones don't.
Exactly right. If you're the team that wants the player, figure it out. If that's what they need to hear from you, then tell them.
Agreed, man. I don't want to spend time on this stuff, but I happened to look at Luis Angel Acuna earlier, and I see this, man. This is scary stuff from these guys, man. Yeah. Jed Williams spring numbers. I looked at Acuna's spring numbers. Oof, man. But listen, good luck to those guys.
I always
And
liked Acuna too. I always thought the Mets underutilized him. They sort of
right.
pigeonholed him as a defensive replacement slash pinch runner. And, oh, he can't hit. And it's like, okay, well, you give him like 2 at bats a week. How's he going to hit in the majors?
Yeah, that's tough.
So, but I'm not going to litigate that trade or anything. They needed to move on, and they did. And it's fine.
Anthony, as we look forward here now, leave the past a little bit, and we try to get you out of here in a responsible time. Obviously, there's the givens, right? Lindor, if healthy, we know there's probably going to be a little bit of time to regain his strength in his hand. So maybe he lacks a little bit of power early on. He gets off to a slow start anyways, so what's new, right? We expect Juan Soto to be there. Although, again, I watch a lot of SNY. I watch you guys, and I saw you and Sago a little bit back and forth, and you were giving us the back of the baseball card with Soto, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to hear that crap. I need more impact. I get the back of the baseball card, and it looks pretty, the 40 home runs, the 39 stolen bases, which maybe 36 were meaningless. I'm kidding. But I need more impact from Juan Soto. You get what I'm saying, Anthony? Like,
yeah, but he is who he is, Hector. Like, this is the part where we got to know him too. Like, he's not going to swing at a pitch outside the strike zone with a guy on second base because he thinks maybe he's got a shot at getting a hit that'll get that guy in. He's going to take a walk instead. That's the kind of player he is. And then the next time he's up, he's going to punish the pitcher, who makes a mistake and hit the ball over the fence. Like,
as long as he does that, I guess. But there wasn't enough for that. I said as long as he does that, I guess. But I just felt like there wasn't enough for that. There weren't enough big hits from Soto last year. Like, I feel like we waited all year for that Soto moment, and I'm not sure that we really got it. And what really does that mean? I don't know, but that's just the feeling that I have. Like, yeah, the numbers were there. I just don't feel like the impact was there. If we look at the numbers, his best month was the team's worst. One of the worst months in June when it started going the other way totally. So for me,
they were a weird team last year, Hector.
Yeah.
You think about how bad they were in August. I think they were 11-17, and I think they set a record for home runs or runs in a single calendar month in club history then. Which is it's bizarre. I was looking up something before I had written down. They had a plus 21 run differential in August last year, and they were 6 games under 500.
Yeah.
They were just odd last year in so many ways. And maybe the Soto year was part of that. And I think we all spent too much time handicapping his body language and whether he was happy and does he want to be a Met or a Yankee? That stuff was. He had a good year. He's a good player. If he does that again, he might. It's another good year. If he does a little bit better, he might be the NL MVP. So I got no complaints with Juan Soto. If you want him to drive in the winning run every time he has a chance, well, you want every player in baseball to do that. Ohtani, Judge, Schwarber, any of those guys, same thing.
Absolutely. It just at a higher clip than he did last year. And again, I just feel like the impact wasn't there. But you alluded to it. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it does feel like he's in a better place this season, though. Don't you think? Again, we try to read body language. What the hell do we know?
Right? He's
exactly.
He's in a new place for a year.
Exactly.
He's got a year under his belt as a Met. I think he's probably happy. He's got a lot of reason to be happy. He's one of the best hitters who ever lived. He's got a big contract. He's on a team that presumably is going to be good this year, and at least will make the effort, including this year and going forward for the duration of his contract, to be really good. That's a pretty sweet place to be for a ball player.
Yeah, and I just think now he's not trying to meet everybody for the first time and remember people's names. If he's like me, he has a hard time remembering people's names. Just even knowing how to get now to Cloverfield a little bit better, Clover Park, whatever it's called. He's going to know how, his route to Citi Field better. Just knowing which way to go when you walk in the stadium. Little things like that, I think, go into it. To me, and just when people try to say, the stuff that was going on in the clubhouse, I don't really think it's anything to do with that, per se, but maybe it has something to do with that as well. I do think we're going to get
they got a new year to have a new thing in the, you know what I mean? Like, they got a new year to rewrite any narrative that anybody can think of. They got a new season to do it.
Absolutely. And I'm a big proponent of every season writes its own story.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
We'll see. Um, let's see, what do we got here? This team again. You can. Well, I think we talked about this briefly before we came on, where this team we could look at a lot of X factors or wild cards.
Oh yeah.
I think you could take them either way, right? And I think overall a big one is the pitching and in itself, right? Just the pitching. You want to take it together, the rotation and the bullpen, and then within that, obviously there's some wild cards and there are some X factors. And the wild cards, I think, are pretty obvious. They've been that for a while, and it's Sean Manaea and Kodai Senga. Yeah. And we came into the offseason and into spring training, first of all, in the offseason thinking maybe Kodai Senga won't be on the New York Mets once we get to spring training. And here he was, after saying he wanted to stick around, right? After saying he wanted to stick around, and has the better spring, you can say, than Sean Manaea. And finds himself in the rotation when Sean Manaea is on the outside looking in. Your thoughts on their spring and how that came about, or how that came down?
Well, look, if Senga is going to be healthy this year, I think he's got a chance to be really good, because when he's been healthy, we've seen him be really good for the most part. The weird part about him was that at the end of last season, when the Mets were desperate for help and desperate to try to make the playoffs, he was deemed unpitchable by the team and sent down to the minors. That's a little frightening, I think. And to me, he's got, whatever his spring numbers are, great. Okay, good. They're better than, if they're good, they're better than them being bad. But it also, he hasn't proven all that much. So he's got a lot on his plate to show the Mets and everybody else in baseball about the end of last year and healthy. And if he is going to be the pitcher that he can be when he's right. As far as Sean Manaea, look, the velocity drop is one of those things where you think like, oh, veteran pitcher, spring training, knows his own body. He says he's not worried about it, that it'll, it's on the come up here and it'll be fine. Okay, well, then maybe you say, all right, okay. But then it keeps happening and, it makes you a little uncomfortable. He was so dominant in that second half of 24 when he changed his arm angle, the Chris Sale thing, and he was so great and it was incredible to see. And we haven't seen that very much from him across really his whole career. So he's got a lot to prove now too. As long as he's healthy, I'm not wound up about him starting the season as a piggyback guy, because I think, that's got a lot to do with the schedule, and the Mets not needing a sixth starter, but I think he's going to start for this team, as we move deeper into the schedule. So we'll see what happens with him. Look, you're right, 100%, Hector. There's a lot of hope on bounce back in the Met pitching staff. And, is it realistic to think that all of the bounce back guys are going to bounce back? No, it is not. So we'll see what happens there. I mean, there's other question marks too. Nolan McClain, I feel like has been treated like a sure thing. And
I was going there.
Talent-wise, he is a sure thing. He has an abundance of talent. His first year after a big innings jump, who knows how that's going to go in terms of workload. That's why I was a little queasy about him being in the WBC.
Yeah, you and I both. I didn't think he should have been there, but anyways.
But but the guy is incredibly, just mind-bendingly talented. He does stuff that no other pitcher can do in terms of spinning the baseball, and that is pretty impressive. And he's clearly, if you believe anything that's come out of Met camp in terms of his the competitiveness that he sort of has innately, and his just desire to win, that stuff matters. And if it's all true about him, he's got a huge future. We'll see what it manifests itself into this year. Is he going to throw 180 innings this year? I don't know. That's a big ask. So, we'll see. Freddie Peralta's a sure thing. Right. David Peterson, I think, is better than his second half showed. And I think now that he's got that experience under his belt, probably has an idea how to make sure.
Anthony, I think I've told you this before, but I'm sorry to interrupt. Credit to you. And when I think David Peterson, I think the words of Anthony McCaron last year when I said David Peterson needs to step up and be an ace. And Anthony said, hey, do you think he's going to be able to make that innings jump? We're going to be asking him. And I think that's what happened. And he talked about it in spring where he possibly hit the wall there.
Right.
And that's what happened with the second half. So, yeah.
Real.
Yeah. So,
that stuff is real, yeah.
I think David Peterson, but yeah, you bring in McClain, and I don't know where to put him. An X factor or a wild card. Again, you come into the offseason, and I thought both Minaya and Senga were wild cards because we didn't know what the hell we were going to get. Now it seems like Senga has stepped into the X factor category because he could be an X factor. Listen, I rolled my eyes when I first heard it, Anthony. This is blunt thoughts. I'm honest about how the hell I feel and what I think. When I hear Juan Soto say, "What do you think about Kodai Senga? He's our ace." I'm like, what? Are you nuts? Do you not see Freddie Peralta? Do you not see Nolan McClain? But then I thought to myself, wait a minute. Let me put myself in Juan Soto's shoes. And what he saw last season, was a guy in Kodai Senga who was in top 3, maybe early Cy Young talk, you know what I'm saying, for the season, who was performing as an ace. So I can understand why he says that's our ace, because for a big part of the season, while the Mets were performing well, he was the ace.
Yeah.
He's the guy that he knows as the ace of the New York Mets, you know? And if we're honest, and this has been a debate for a while, is Kodai Senga an ace or is Kodai Senga not an ace? He may never be an ace, but when he's been healthy and at his best, he sure as always looked like one.
Yeah, he's been good.
So if he's going to be what he's been this spring, Anthony, that's a big X factor.
Yeah.
Because now that takes off some of that pressure of McClain, who, like you said, you're absolutely right. We're assuming that he's a sure thing.
Right.
And he's going to come over here and give us 18 or 20 wins.
Right. Yeah, that's a tall order.
So if we can get a Kodai Senga to be that dude, then that's going to help us even more. And if David Peterson can keep on growing, I think he's an X factor in the rotation to stabilize this rotation.
Yeah, he's loaded with talent as well, Peterson. Very remarkable, and he's been around for a little bit, so we think of him in terms of I don't know, deep into his career, but he's still at in an establishment mode to me anyway. And now this is the year that he needs to establish that he can be the same kind of guy from April through September and beyond. And that would be a huge thing for the Mets, who are going to rely on some depth, and they seem to at least believe they have some depth. I mean, Jonah Tong is, got some more developing to do. It's obvious that the Mets feel that way with him, but I think he's going to be a factor on this team at some point during the year as well. He's got amazing stuff. But he's still got some work to do in the minors, and that's not such an awful thing. He's still a young man, and it's doesn't matter that he went back down. It's okay. But yeah, I mean, they've got some guys who need to cash in for them to get to where they want to be for sure.
Yes, and then Christian Scott, who's been impressive, and I didn't think he would make the team.
I was racking my brain, and for some reason I forgot him. But yes, he is definitely going to be a factor as well. Good call.
Yes, but good job by them keeping him in the minors. And that was the expectation. I think they were even a little surprised as to how he performed in spring, maybe a little bit ahead of what they expected. So I don't have a problem with him starting in the minors, and then we'll see how it plays out. But he'll probably definitely be a factor. And listen, him, I'm not gonna say Tongue, but he may get a start before Sean Manaea gets a start, as they were non-committal on whether Manaea would actually get a start right away when they needed that sixth man. But it could be exciting.
Yeah.
Now, we had the same thing, and maybe not as many, but on the offensive side. And guys where you could think of as wild cards or X factors, guys where, listen, it's time to start getting something out of these guys. As much as we've been excited this spring and this offseason because of the young talent that we see and that we think is knocking on the door, ready to come up, and we're excited about Carson Bench, and I don't know what the heck these guys are playing, and maybe it's like, and I thought about it a little bit too, but I still like to have fun, Anthony, so I'm going to post, come on, stop playing games, Mendy, and tell me that Carson Bench is a starter already. What the hell are we doing? But
Yeah.
maybe they want to make it a nice thing in the back where they video it and they tell him and everybody celebrates, and who the hell knows, right?
Deal. Like I don't think it's a big deal that they haven't.
No, it isn't.
Now.
It isn't.
He clearly is. He is going to be, obviously. Look, I mean, at the beginning of camp, and over the offseason, obviously, David Stearns said he'd have a chance to make the team. And, just in looking at his experience, Benj's experience in the minors, I think he's got 50-something games above Brooklyn, which is Class A in the minors. So that's not a lot of upper-level experience, obviously. All of it was last year. By the time he got to AAA, he did not hit well there, or at least the numbers weren't good. I'm sure they have some metrics that showed that he was holding his own, and I get it. That's fine. But I was just, I was wondering why they were, pushing him up. He's got a chance, and they needed to get him. I mean, like Mike Tauchman would have been a healthy Mike Tauchman would have been a fine opening day right fielder. No big deal, whatever. But Carson Bench has changed my mind there because I think he's forced his way into the job. And that's what prospects have to do. In some cases, the Mets aren't a rebuilding team, obviously, and he has pushed his way into making it impossible, let's be frank, for them to say no to him at this point, especially since they have a need at the position. His at-bats have been mature. He clearly has a strike zone discipline and knowledge.
Which I love.
Yeah, and he can play the position. Look, and I'll credit the Mets and their player development people here, because the reason why David Stearns said that he could have a chance to play his way into being on the big league club is because they knew their player. And this guy has proven it in camp and has looked great. And so he's earned the shot as far as I'm concerned. And I was down on the idea early on. Honestly, I was pitching Brett Beatty as the starting right fielder at some point during camp, just because I thought if they were going to give him outfield reps, they might as well have an experienced player on the team to start the year and let Benj kind of develop more. But maybe Benj, and they knew it, maybe Benj doesn't need to develop more. Maybe he just needs to be unleashed on the major leagues.
Right. And honestly, Anthony, and I've been saying it, and I'm not the only one. Quite a few people have said it. I don't think you can make such a big deal, because it wasn't the media created. It wasn't fan created that we said, oh, Carson Bench should get a shot to make this team on opening day. No, David Stearns told us this early on, unprompted. Oh, we're thinking Carson Bench has a shot to make this team. He goes out there, you just said it, handles himself perfectly fine, and now you're going to tell him he can't make this team? Like, what kind of message does that send to everybody else?
Right.
Like, it just seems foolish to me. And listen, early on, I was surprised too. I was even asking, what happened to the whole idea? And I don't think it was him. I think this was more of a Billy Epler thing, where they kept talking about at-bats in the minor leagues and at-bats at the AAA level. Well, this guy hasn't had any.
Right.
What changed here? Is he that good? And then when I watched a little bit, I looked at the numbers. I'm like, okay, I'm not a big metrics guy. I'm not impressed. But he's impressed me in spring training. And for me, Anthony, I don't need everybody to be a power hitter. If the power comes later on for him, I'm okay with that. Right. If he can put the ball in play, if he can get on base, I love when I hear guys like him and AJ Ewing tell me, I hate striking out. Like that. That is music to my ears. And I'm hoping that this team overall has changed its philosophy. And I've read a little bit, on Jeff Albert and what they're thinking, and Snicker, and what the plans are going to be and how they're going to approach the offense. And it seems like it's going to be different than what Jeremy Barnes told me. I'm glad I never met the dude, because it made me sick, the whole, we'll let a pitch go because we want to get another pitch that we can do damage on. Screw damage. Damage can come in different ways. It doesn't have to be in 400 feet. Damage can be what we're hoping that this offense is going to do now. Put the ball in play, hit behind a runner, hit a double in the gap, whatever the hell it may be. We saw Alvarez yesterday. We saw Simeon with a double down the line. Bichette hits a double down the line, clears the bases. That's what I want to see, damn it.
I thought Alvarez's RBI single yesterday to right field.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like he didn't crush it. He hit it off the end of the bat, but the plan there, the execution of the swing and all that stuff. We've all seen Francisco Alvarez swing out of his shoes trying to pull a ball 500 feet to left center, and he didn't do that this time, and look what happened. It was very nice. And yeah, I mean, I feel what you're saying, Hector, with that. And look, I mean, in terms of bench, he's coming in to a nice situation as well, because the Met offense isn't going to fail or not fail because of Carson Bench. He's going to bat 8th or 9th or whatever, and they're going to take what they can get with him. He better catch the ball in right field. But like if he doesn't win Rookie of the Year, that's not going to sink the Mets season. Like the Mets season is going to depend on the pitching, and Juan Soto, Lindor, Bichette, those guys are going to be cranking the offense and the team's fortunes. And Ben just going to be getting some good major league experience. And who knows, maybe by June, he's moved way up in the lineup because he's unstoppable. It's going to be fun to watch him and where his path goes.
Right. And listen, to be fair, like I said, part of the X factor is these 3 other young guys, right? Alvarez, Beatty, and my guy, Mark Vientos, who are you guys? So we do keep that in mind as we're excited about Benj. Let's hope that he doesn't go along their pathway. Start, go. But how many guys come up and just a straight, rise to the top? There's going to be some growing pains, but
few guys go from, hey, I made the team, to superstardom immediately. You know what I mean? Like it takes guys a while in some cases. And, Brett Beatty has been a good thing the Mets hung in there with him, because he looks like a vital piece of their team. He had some serious ups and downs in his career, and his first taste of the majors in the first few years of it. And last year really solidified himself, I thought. Proved that he could play a variety of positions. So now that they're looking at the outfield as a possibility for him, I mean, that's all speaks well of him. And, Alvarez, I love him as a player, as the potential. He's a total worker. Like people have always said that. I think I've told you this before, Hector, but even when he was at Brooklyn, they were talking about him like that. We can't get this kid to stop working. He wants to,
I've heard the same.
And that's good. That's great. I think he can make a leap this year offensively, and I think it's going to be key for the Mets if he does. And Vientos, look, I'm Saturday, he hit his first homer of spring. Thank goodness, because he's had a horrendous spring. And this is one of those things where you look at the spring and you're like, oh man, it's terrible, but it's like 35 at bats or whatever. So it's like, okay, it hasn't been good. And you think he's playing for a spot. So the numbers should be better if he wants to have a spot. And it's like, well, it's 35 at bats, 40 at bats by the time it's over, whatever. I'm not giving up on Vientos either. I still love the right-handed power. And look, the game is one of the reasons Pete Alonso is so interesting to in Major League Baseball, is because he's a right-handed masher. Power. Right-handed power is still a commodity in the game, and Vientos has it. And it would be a big thing for the Mets if it were unleashed this year.
Absolutely. And it's something that last year. There's something that we're wondering on this team, where we're going to get that power from. It could be right here. It could be right here with a guy that's on the team control for 3 years, that's getting less than $1 million a year. Why the hell are we going to go look somewhere else to try to find this? I mean, and if you can find it, go ahead. But that's why I've always felt like.
And no matter how much money Steve Cohen has, you can't have 26 guys making $765 million on the roster. So you're right. You need to get guys like this to cash in too.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think you just spoke on that. I got to get Anthony out of here. I'm already way over the time I told him I was going to get him out of here. So
let's go through more.
A few questions here, if you don't mind, and then we'll wrap it up on one last thing. But I think you just kind of touched on this. JJO says, just because Beatty has been looking good at first during spring training, that means nothing. When the season starts, let's see if he stays consistent, if he's only played 2 or 2 days a week. I think that's a fair point.
Absolutely.
But I think, listen, I got to be fair. I've been extremely critical of Beatty. I've been a non-believer in Beatty. And again, it's spring. What does it really mean? But his attitude has been A1.
Yeah, he's a good kid.
His attitude has been A1. The little bit that I have been able to watch in spring training, he's looked good everywhere. We saw him be competent last year, both at second base and third base.
Yeah.
He's looked decent out there in right field.
He'll be able to play first.
Yeah, he looked pretty competent at first base. Maybe the best of the three. Dare I say of him, Vientos and Polanco. Although Vientos hasn't looked terrible at first base either. But there's something also about a left-handed first baseman that just looks nice.
Sure.
So, wait, am I confused? Beatty is left-handed, right? I know is he one of these bats lefty catch righty? No, I don't know. Now I'm confused.
Right, he does throw right-handed. He couldn't.
Yeah. Now I'm confused.
Couldn't play third base if he didn't.
Right. But
Right.
he's looked. Look, that's how good or better he's looked at first base than the other guys that I thought he was left-handed. I just feel like I got to give him his flowers. He's been pretty good. We'll see how it plays out. Let me ask you. Did I ask you? Do you think Carlos Mendoza's on the hot seat? I know I asked you about David Stearns and his job security.
Here's what I think about Mendy. I think that if the Mets are, let's see, 28 and 38 at one point, then I think he'll be on the hot seat. Yeah, I think he's the next. Like, look, last year didn't work out, obviously, and they ended up being a bad team at the end that didn't make the playoffs. And after being the best team in baseball for a couple of months, and they fired the coaches, and they changed the roster, and then the next guy, in in the heat map is the manager. So I'm not saying he starts the season there. And I think that we would forget that concept if they were to get off to a good start. But I think if they're not playing well in May and late May, then, I don't know. Would it be fair? I don't know if that would be fair, if that's fair, that idea, but I think it probably would be true, or at least the outside pressure would be ramped up, and the heat would be ramped up on him. Look, Hector, I know some of your folks disagree. I don't think Mendy is a problem. I think he's a good manager and a good communicator. And, I know not everybody agrees, and that's fine. He's the manager, and we'll see how this team goes. He's got a challenge in front of him because it's a whole new team. I'm not a whole new team, but there's so many different elements on the team. And, let's see how it comes together.
No, I agree with you. I actually don't think he's in a hot seat at all. I mean, obviously, if they just come out in a horrendous, and it seems like he has no control of the team and the clubhouse, then yes, right? But I think even if performance is what's lacking, does that really go on him? I know we spoke earlier in the offseason, and I like what I've learned so far, that he was involved in the hiring of his bench coach, Kai Correa. He has known him for a while, you know what I'm saying? And it's someone that he wanted to bring in. He thought that could help him and the organization.
Right.
So I feel like as long as him and the front office are aligned in what they're trying to do, the same way ownership and the front office are aligned, and we don't feel like David Stearns, and a little bit different for Carlos Mendoza, because I think it's even more performance-based or instant performance-based, if that makes any sense. More in the near future than the long term, how it would be for David Stearns. More short term for Carlos Mendoza, but I still think as long as they're all on the same page, I keep saying this, and it sounds crazy if I say it now, right? Because we haven't even made the playoffs like they did. But how many times did fans, media, whether you were Dodger fans or not, felt like Dave Roberts should be fired? And there was Dave Roberts year after year after year after year because they were in line and what the hell they were trying to do. And they felt like he was the right guy and he was delivering the right message. And here we are now where people are now saying Dave Roberts the best manager in baseball. So
Dodgers were so many people's punchlines for so long because they kept making the playoffs and having these incredible regular seasons, and they weren't winning the World Series. And now they've won 3, including the last 2. So
I want to be that punchline, Anthony. I would love to be that punchline. Anthony, I don't like to do this too much. And it's the whole prediction thing. But where do you see this team as far as wins? Listen, in my crazy moments, I think this team could win a division.
Yeah.
I think this team will win a division. I see this team winning 97 games or better. I really do.
Nice.
That's how I feel about this team right now. Now, listen, this is after 50 minutes of talking about ifs and this and question marks and wild cards and X factors.
We didn't even talk about Luis Robert as an if, and he's a
yes, and I have him written down here. And as we were talking, I said, don't forget Luis Robert, Hector. But that's another big X factor there.
Yeah. I mean, he's incredibly gifted as a player, and at the very least, he's going to give them incredible defense in center field, and then maybe if you get some home runs from him and maybe some steals too, it's a good deal. And then he could explode too and have a big year like he did. What was it, 3 years ago in Chicago with 38 homers? Now he could also like play 20 games for them because he gets hurt, because he does not stay healthy and he has not been consistent in his career. The Mets, I think, have actually done a pretty good job with him. Spring training, slow playing him because they know that that's his biggest flaw, is that he is just does not stay healthy. And if they can keep him healthy, and they could get a very, very interesting season from that guy, we'll see. In terms of predictions, even with all these ifs, every team.
Well, before you do that, hello to our guy Randy here, who has a good question.
Randy.
Yes, because I was surprised myself when we saw him hitting fifth in the lineup. You think that's a good spot for him?
I don't mind it. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I think that's why I've said.
Should he hit any high? I don't think he should hit any higher. I actually like the Polanco fourth. I like the way they've been running it out there in the last few days. Lindor, Soto, Bichette, Polanco. We'll see. Look, Robert could find himself fifth all year. He could find himself hitting eighth if he struggles. So we'll see. How can you, what spot in the lineup? And, this is up to Mendy and the front office people who have their say in the lineup too. Where do his legs come in terms of how can you best utilize them, as an offensive weapon if you're going to allow him to steal. The Mets have been pretty. I
was going to say, do we want to use his legs too much though, Anthony?
Right, and that's
if we're trying to keep him on the field, I don't know.
Right, that's part of the problem. And in fact, I argued last year, and then he ended up tying for the NL lead in stolen bases, that I didn't want Juan Soto to run at all. I don't want some stupid hamstring injury to keep him out. But the same thing, bless you, the same thing applies to Robert as well. So we'll see. But he's potentially like this seriously exciting talent in that lineup.
Yeah, and I can't believe we almost neglected to touch on them. But I'm glad that we got to it here. Now you could go ahead with your prediction as we get to wrap it up here.
Well, Hector, you've caught me in my spring optimism period here because I too am bullish on the Mets. Look, I know they have a lot of things that need to go right. All of them probably can't go right at the same time, but I do think that they're going to win the East. I think they're going to win 94 games. I love the signing of Bo Bichette. I think he'll play competently at third base, and I think that the kind of hitter that he is, obviously their offense has changed a little bit without the Pete home run threat in that fourth hole. But I think Bo Bichette's 40 doubles, 25-ish home run, contact profile, plus his, we've talked about this a lot over the past few years, Hector, and the Mets clutch gene, whether you agree, whether you believe that such a thing exists or not. Bo Bichette's numbers with runners in scoring position, I think, except for one season in his career, are like great. And if he can bring that to the Mets this year, I think that has a huge impact on the offense and the lineup. And, look, for all their problems last year, they scored runs. I think they had a top 10 offense in terms of maybe ninth in terms of average runs. Offense has changed. But I think this one will probably be in that same area. And I think that, they've got a shot to be a very, very good team. But, the National League is full of teams that could be a problem, which is why I had them at 94 wins and that would win the division.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why Anthony is a professional and I'm just a novice. I'm just an amateur here, just having fun, knowing what the hell I'm doing, right? As I almost neglected bringing up Bo Bichette, and if anything, he's one of the biggest X factors on this team, as he can totally change the dynamic. And we're expecting that he's going to change the dynamic of this offense. We'll see how he does on third base. I love how people celebrate when he makes a play in the shortstop hole. Like, okay, he's used to making that. I want to see him make the plays at third base. That's what I really want to see. But listen, it's more about the offense for guys like him. That's where we expect him to have an impact. Anthony, you're the man. I appreciate you. I want to get you out of here at least in an hour since I couldn't do the 30 to 40 minutes. So I'm going to leave some stuff on the table that I want to bring up and that some people here are bringing up. But as we go out here, I will say this to this question here because I think I can answer it and you can chime in on it as well. Does Ronnie Mauricio have a major play on this team this year? I'll say this. The same way we talked about the rotation, we could talk about Jonathan. We could talk about Christian Scott. We could even talk about Sean Manaea. But guess what? If those guys are not making starts, that means that the guys that are making starts are performing well.
Right.
If Ronnie Mauricio doesn't come up here, that means we're healthy and the guys up here are performing well. So listen, maybe Ronnie is a factor. I don't know. But I hope we're not depending on all of these guys that are not here now, because then that means that guys are underperforming and may be hurt.
Right. There's a lot to dream on with Ronnie Mauricio. There really is. Like just when he hits them, they're hit, and it's so much fun to watch that. Well, I do want to,
but I think they did the right thing, Anthony. I think you would agree, right? They did the right thing with Ronnie. He needed to start the year in the minors.
Oh, no question. I mean, Hector, I think we've talked about this before, but I think they did Ronnie a disservice last year when they called him up to begin with, because I feel like coming off of the injury that he was coming off of, he needed to play every day. And if he was not going to play every day, then he should never have been in the majors. And, I don't know if they adversely affected his development, but I didn't like it. Him sitting around at the end of the season, not doing much, wasn't really like a player development Hall of Fame kind of scenario. He needed at bats. He needed to play. Hopefully he's going to, he'll get that now. But this guy is a huge talent and he's got huge potential. We'll see if he has an impact, but you're right. I mean, what you said is, if he's up and contributing big time, that means somebody else didn't, because he's starting the season in the minors, but he needs to play first and foremost. So it was the right move.
Absolutely. And listen, man, I didn't like the way it was last year. And I told Mendy, and I'm upset at Mendy. He should have told me what the real reason was. And listen, they got caught in a bind. They brought him up here because of injury. They never sent him back down because he got hot there at the end. Because we were talking, okay, Ronnie's going to go back down, but he got hot there the last couple of days before. I forget who the heck was going to come up. They ended up leaving him up here. And then they ran into the whole, we don't want to lose his option thing. And Mendy didn't tell me that. He talked to me about, he's getting experience watching here. Give me a break. Yeah, he needed experience by being on the field.
Whole year without playing.
Yeah, that was no good. I'm just gonna let Anthony go. We got a couple of comments here, with the negative people, whether we have a bunch of rentals, whether Robert's a rental, Bichette is leaving after the year, Clay Holmes is after
the year.
Clay Holmes can opt out, Peterson's a free agent. Like, we get it. If you go on Fangraphs, on Spotrac, whatever you can see that the Mets' commitment in contracts after 27 are very minimal at most. But I'm not gonna worry about that stuff right now. In 2026, we've put together a pretty good roster on paper. Now, Hector's the first one to tell you the game is not played on paper; it's played on dirt and grass. So we'll see how it plays out. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to Anthony for joining us and giving us his time. And we want him to come back. So we want to be responsible and let him get the hell out of here. Anthony, again, man, thank you, man. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Hector. Enjoyed it as always.
Did you give me your wins? You're just very bullish on the Mets.
94.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
And
there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
In our SNY prediction thing this week at some point. They'll be putting it on the website so you can check out everybody's predictions.
There you go.
Keep it as a scorecard if you want for the end of the year. It's just an answer key. Check. He was right about that. I'm kidding.
There it is.
It's a tough business.
Right. Well, hey, listen, and you think people are not going to do that? Especially if you're right. If it's a good scorecard, they'll ignore it. If it's a bad scorecard, then people will bring it up.
Right.
That's how it is.
Receipts, Hector, right?
Exactly. Well, Anthony, have a good night, man. Thank you, and thank you to your family for letting you do this, your wife and all that good stuff. We appreciate it, man.
All right. Be well, Hector. Thanks again.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
And there it is, y'all. There it is. Your 2026 season preview with our guy, Anthony McCaron. Once again, man, hope everybody enjoyed it. Sorry for coming in late. We had to get it started a little bit early. And again, wanted to be a little bit responsible here. But I'm excited, man. I'm excited for the year. The game is not played on paper. It isn't. It isn't even played on these podcasts or anything like that. It's played on dirt and grass. And we'll see how it plays out. But there are question marks on this team. And there are things to feel good about. Spring is a time to be optimistic, as Anthony said. And I'm sure it's all optimistic. So right now we feel pretty damn good to the point that, yes, we feel like this team will win the division and win 97 games or better. We'll see how it plays out. I'm going to get out of here myself. We will be back this week with some more stuff as we find out when Carson Bench finally gets told that he will make the team and they do the little nice video. We'll react to that if anything. Work on some other stuff, but we're not even going to talk about it because we don't know what'll happen. If not, the watch-alongs will be coming throughout the season. We're going to be trying to be doing post games pretty much every game. For those on X, we'll be doing the pre-games on X. Just the X pre-games and all that good stuff. We will be doing the blunt recaps. All that stuff is coming back. And hopefully you guys keep coming back because we need you and we appreciate y'all. On that note, you already know what the hell it is. No matter what the hell is going on out there, it's always let's go Mets. Shout out to the homie Kweisi, man, for helping us out. Even though he fell asleep there for a little while and then finally woke up at the end. But he's my guy, no matter what. And shout out to the homie Junior, who actually bumped into Kweisi. That was pretty cool, man. These guys actually bumped into each other. Doing what all Mets fans should do. I don't understand. I talk about it all the time. Sometimes you see somebody in Mets gear outside and you saw let's go Mets. And they forget they're wearing Mets gear, or they don't know what the hell they're wearing, or what the hell, and they look at you like you freaking got 5 eyes. Well, that's what happened with my guy Junior and my guy Kweisi. As Kweisi, I believe, saw Junior wearing some Mets gear, said, let's go Mets. And somehow, see, he's hiding right now, so I can't even bring him up. Just with the little glimpses that you guys have gotten, the homeboy Junior recognized him, and they had a little conversation, so that was cool. And that's what we do here in Blunt Thoughts, man. We bring people together, man. We bring people together. He said, nah, I knew I had my Mets. Because you're a good Mets fan, bro. You know how many Mets fans I run into and I say, yo, let's go Mets. And, Oh, okay. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell? Some just ignore me. Maybe it's just me, though. I don't know. But anyways, that was pretty damn cool. So shout out to you guys, man. Again, you already know what it is, man. Let's go Mets. I'm out of here. Kweisi, get me the hell out of here, bro.
Full of animals and we made ourselves with minimal. Fuck you, no subliminals. Putting in this work, nigga. That's why they feelings hurt, nigga. Swear we need a hearse cause we rep our shites to the dirt, nigga. If I'm in the club.